Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Good evening. I'm Rox Burkey, and tonight I have a really special honor, and it just happens to coincide with us being so close to Veterans Day. So I have with me tonight Commander Sergeant Major Terry Braddock, retired. Welcome, Terry.
Good to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, it's a delight. And really, your whole book is a delight. I am fascinated by the background on this book. So one of the really neat things about having this so close to Veterans Day is that you are a 38-year Army member. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes.
So with Veterans Day, Veterans Day right around the corner, do you have any special messages you want to share out to your friends and family and fellow veterans?
Yes, I do. I want first and foremost to thank them for their service and their dedication to this great nation. I want them to know that they're not forgotten, that their service to this nation will never be forgotten. And today, you know, as we get closer to marking Veterans Day on Monday, I want everyone to know that's one special day, but every day should be Veterans Day. Every opportunity that veterans have an opportunity to be recognized by some of our great Americans, I would ask them to please recognize our veterans. Their service is unprecedented in what they have done for this great country and what they continue to do even to this day. So I want our veterans to know that we love you, and again, we thank you for your service and welcome home.
And I have to second that. And that really brings us to your book and the passion behind your life as you construct this memoir and bring it out to the public. So first of all, I know that there's right behind you, My Way Out of Chicago's South Side, the stump, that really kind of introduces you as you were starting out. So why did you decide to create this biography?
Well, I will tell you that as I was doing my time in the service and as I was accumulating a lot of years, there were times when service members would say, you know, you have a lot of time in service, you ought to think about doing the book. And that everywhere I traveled, I kept getting that same, comment from different service members. And after I pretty much retired, I would always sit around and just kind of tell wife, the first lady, all the different my different travels throughout the world and things that I was involved in the military. And she just looked at me and she said, "We need to do a book." And I was like, "Okay." And I was thinking in terms of, I said, well, we're going to do this. I think I would like to be self-published because I really feel that the way I remember things that occurred in my life as an adolescent growing up in the inner city south side of Chicago, as a young kid, a teenager, and a young adult prior to joining the military, and then even after joining the military, I have fond memories of different things that I encountered as I was growing up in the south side of Chicago, as well as in the military. And I wanted my words to be exactly the way I remember them. A lot of times when you get with publishers or editors, sometimes they want to change the direction of your words. And I've always felt like, no, this is the way I remember it, and this is the way I wanted to be told. And I wanted the audience to say, wow, you know, he seems to have a really good memory of things that he encountered in his life. And I wanted to make sure that my words were exactly the way I remembered and how I experienced it throughout my adolescent years, teenage years, young adult years, and military service.
And to be fair and very transparent with our audience, you actually grew up in Chicago, a tough part of Chicago, and you grew up during some civil rights issues that were no small thing in this country. And so how did you view the Army for yourself?
Well, clearly, growing up in the inner city south side of Chicago, as you said earlier, there were many, many challenges that I faced, especially when you think about the ghetto south side, which is considered to be one of the roughest and toughest sides of Chicago. There were three things that really sustained me as I was growing up. My faith, determination, and positive attitude. Especially in my family, we had great family values, good religious background. And so my faith was never actually tested because I had a solid base that my grandmother, my mother, and my father really put instilled inside me. Determination, in terms of that, I had a drive that was in me that was sometimes I couldn't even explain it myself. I just had a strong will that I wanted better. And I kept saying, if you want better, you got to do better to get better. And those are the things that I really kind of defined me in the sense of how I was looking and driving myself. And at the same time, when I look at defining myself, I relate to the three defining moments, which really catapulted me towards the military. The first was, as I was walking past the recruiter's office as a young adolescent kid, I saw a sign with this gentleman in his red, white, blue outfit on, and he had his finger and he was pointing it. It was like he was saying, and he was saying at the bottom of the sign, there was words that said, "I want you to join the Army right now." And I was like, is he talking to me? I'm kind of young right now. I don't know. But it's the way the finger was pointing, everywhere I moved, the finger seemed to move with me. I'm like, okay. The second, as I remember as a young adolescent, January, a cold morning, 20th of January, 1961, our 35th president, when he echoed the words, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." And I knew that I was definitely an a destined to ask him. And then the final was Isaiah 6:8, when the Lord basically says, "Whom shall I send?" And that my destiny was the military. It was a honor and a privilege because at that time I said, you know, this country has done a lot for me. It has given me a lot, and now I have a chance to give back. And that's what I looked at. I have a chance to give back. Because I looked above all of the prejudice and the different turmoils, because I grew up in the turbulent years of the 60s and 70s. But I was able to rise above that because my final piece where I was talking about those three things that define me was my positive attitude. I always was able to take negatives and turn them into positive, no matter what. And I think that that's what really catapulted me towards the military.
Well, you know, it just kind of speaks to how you as an individual were able to overcome a lot of adversity and make such a career and a mark and really help become a leader of the men and women that reported to you. That's not easy. So was that impacted at all by the diverse way that you spent between, you know, your time in the South Side of Chicago and your time in Tennessee on your grandparents' farm in the South? I mean, those are, again, during those times, that's a pretty diverse culture that you're being mixed into. Even today, they're very diverse.
Absolutely. I think that the challenge was clearly growing up on the south side of Chicago, up north, as we would call it if you're in the southern states. My father was a very proud man, and he would always tell me, when someone speaks to you, you look him directly in the eye. Do not look down or look away, you look him directly in the eye. You know, be a man, be a young man, then finally be a man. And clearly, as the civil rights movement was moving, and there were a lot of demands from the African American community in terms of the rights and equal rights, I've always saw myself as a very proud young man, and I was very proud of my family values. But I would say that one of the things that clearly set me on the right path, and that's what really kind of gave me more towards the book, The Stump. It was a lady by the name of Miss Hannaberry. Miss Hannaberry was very instrumental in the way she helped my generations and several generations before me and even after me to be very proud of who we were and who we are. She gave us direction, motivation, and And she gave us a sense of proudness that we carried inside ourselves. And even this day, at school and for my summer, we would travel to the South and spend time on my grandma's farm in Macon, Tennessee. And when I got into the Southern way of thinking, there was a lot of old ways in the Southern South that were still very relevant. And it was still current, although they were outdated, but they were still relevant current once we reached the South. And I remember my grandparents looking at me and saying, now, when we walk down the street, you make sure that, and they used to call the Caucasian, of course, especially the males, Mr. Charlie. Now, when Mr. Charlie is basically speaking, you make sure you look down. You don't look him in the face. and it was a very confused, puzzled look on my face because that's not what my father had taught me. And so I was very torn because my grandparents were very insistent. You know, it's like, you are here. This is now. And you must understand this is the way it is. And so I was forced to comply to the way they were basically thinking, and they had been basically taught to think for several years. And so it forced me to go into a difficult pulling, if you will, different time period of my life where I had to face the Southern way of thinking and conform to that. And when I went back up north, I had to kind of push the Southern way up to the side and get back to the North way of actually doing things. So I was a very torn young man, to say the least, when I would travel to the Southern states.
But that culture diversity that you exposed yourself to in this country, didn't it help you as you were being deployed all around the world protecting this country?
It certainly did, because what it did, it helped me to be able to see an individual for his or herself. Because when you look at a service member, we don't see color. We are all sisters and brothers, of course, coming from another mother, of course, but we are sisters and brothers. We are all there for the same cause, freedom, because freedom is not free, and sometimes it takes everything that we have inside ourselves, even to paying the highest price. And I am able to pay true testament to that. And so those men and women that I have served with and continue to serve with are always inside my heart, and I love them to death. Because when someone asks me, you know, Sergeant Major, what is it really all about? I mean, what is it really all about? I said, you really want to know? Well, I'm going to tell you what it's really all about, especially when you go to combat. It's about the guy and gal next to you, behind you, in front of you. You're fighting for them and they're fighting for you. They got your back and you have their back. And so we don't see color because at the end of the day, we know we're all in there for the same cause, the freedom of this country. So sometimes when I see bigotry or anything like that, you know, I look at that person and I kind of smile, and I look at them, you know, maybe look back at me and say, why you have a smile on your face? I said, because I fought for you to have the right to stand before me and say what you're saying. And that's okay. I'm okay with that because I know what the cost of freedom is. And you have that freedom. You are able to walk around this country each way you are because of what the things that I and others like me have done and continue to do. And so freedom, in a sense, for us, is something that when the nation's called, it might not be fair, and it's never easy. But when the nation's called, the American service member always will be there to answer the call. And that's why when I look at the men and women in the military services, all services, I'm just as proud as I can possibly be. Because I know that when I look at them and I said, it's a pleasure to meet you, sisters. It's a pleasure to meet you, brother. Because we are true brothers and sisters from the same cloth.
So
that's what makes this country great.
And that's an excellent spot. We need to stop for just a minute and hear from our sponsors, but we'll be right back. And I want to talk more in depth about your book, Terry, as soon as we come back. So stick around.
All righty, get your drinks.
Okay.
So why are we breaking up some, Ellen? I don't get it.
Terry, do you live inside a city area or out in the rural?
I'm sorry, please say again.
Do you live in the city or outside in the suburbs?
No, we live in a small town, which is basically northwest of San Antonio.
Okay, that's the reason, Rox.
About 20 miles outside of San Antonio, about 23 miles.
Yeah, so your Wi-Fi is not the best, and so
Yeah.
So, Terry, what might help is if you have anything else running on your computer, like your email or any of those things, just close those programs and only have Zoom open?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we have nothing running whatsoever here. That's all.
Okay. I mean,
We do have a little bad weather, so you can see your.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lecter, Amazon, and all local and national outlets.
Hello, I am the author and poet Denise Bryson. I am the author of The Things That Cross My Mind, Love's Reality, both in book and audio form. I am also noted as one of the best poets of 2011. I have 2 new projects coming up. One is the Blinky series, where Blinky tells us all about our coins and our bills for our children. I also have a book coming out called Say Ye. It's quotes from Denise Bryson, just inspirational and that will help you along the way.
Thank you for watching or listening to this show. Indie Lecter is proud to sponsor this programming. As a thank you for listening or watching, we would like to give you a 10% coupon code that you can use on our bookstore at indielecter.store. Use coupon code video19. Again, that's indielecter.store, coupon code video19 for a 10% discount on any purchase. Thank you.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow.
And welcome back. I'm Rox Burkey, and I'm delighted to continue the conversation with Terry and talk about his book in a little bit more detail, and that is The Stump. And so one of the things I found very interesting about this book, Terry, is that you wrote about military experiences over your 37-year career. However, there was no mention of your deployments or combat tours. Why didn't you focus on that? Because a lot of memoirs from the military does.
I primarily looked at that as that seems to be the old adage, and especially when you look at a book cover. I tell you, it's funny. You look at a book cover, and especially when you look at senior non-commissioned officers like you, or even basically do a book cover, they're going to put on their Class A's, and they're going to put on all their what we call fruit salad, and they're going to be right in the front cover. And a lot of times when audience see a military book, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, here we go with another war story. Okay, here we go again with that. And I felt like, I want the public to know that men and women in the military are not robots. They have ordinary lives. They actually have ordinary lives, just like civilians do. They have good days and bad days. They have good bosses and bad bosses. And I think I wanted to make sure that the audience and the public out there could really see what happens in a day in the life of a military serviceman, male or female. And so as I travel throughout the world, I wanted to reflect on those men and women and the encounters that I encountered with them, and just ordinary lives and ordinary stories that they had in the military, and how that part of their lives were just like a civilian, with a little bit of a twist, where we wore the same clothing every day, of course, and we have rules and regulations that we have to follow. But in terms of the excitement and they're not robotic, they do have ordinary lives. I thought that was important for the audience to be able to pick that up. And that, if you probably saw in the front of my book, you see my basic training picture. Well, that is where it all started. And so, and when you looked at the building and you looked at the stairs, in Chicago, we call stairs like that the stump, where if you're from New York, you'll call it the stoop. And so those stairs is where I learned to become a man. But when you look at my basic training picture, it's where I became a man. And so the word the stump, I wanted the folks that says, oh, wow, okay, when you look below that, you see, okay, Command Sergeant Major retired Terry Braddock. And it's like, yeah, but what's the stump all about? And I wanted folks to be able to get into my book and really realize it's not another wartime story. This is about ordinary lives of men and women.
So one of the things that really tickled me in the book, Terry, was how you related your drill sergeant and how much fun that person was. So you want to share that with the audience because it really is part of your book.
Yes, you're referring to our senior drill called the Bear. When we were first introduced to the Bear by the young drill sergeants, they will tell us that the senior drill name is the Bear. And the reason why he called the Bear is because he doesn't speak, he grunts. And we were all looking at each other like, what do you mean he grunts? They said, yes, he grunts. And so you need to figure out what each one of those grunts means because he doesn't speak. Now, going through 8 weeks of basic training, you would think that, you know, how are you going to figure out what each grunt means? But over time, we figure out what each grunt means. If he run it a certain way, we know he needs to get up and move fast. And if you run another way, that means the bear was not happy, you were going to have a bad day. But he was the only drill sergeant in the whole entire base that basically didn't speak. He just grunted. And so we were clearly a platoon that was talked about all the time about you have a drill sergeant that don't speak. How do you know what to do? He understood that's what we need to do with this drill sergeant because he got our attention. He had a way of getting our attention very quickly.
So you learned an awful lot in the military, not only on how to deal with different cultures, but how to deal with different people and how to continue to grow as being the proud man that you matured into, to the point that, you know, you even like to go on speaking opportunities now, right?
Absolutely. I like to take advantage of going to Rotary clubs or book clubs to speak. I get a lot of joy out of going to ISD schools. I really like to go into ISD schools to talk to the young, what we call 6th and 7th, 8th graders, the middle schools. I really love going there because I like to talk to those kids about choices. I really want them to know that there are going to be many choices in your life because, you know, that's where I see where their young lives are starting to shape into where they're starting to get into the decision-making process. Because when you look at the ages of those young kids from 11 years old to about 13 years old of age, they're at that point where now they're starting to make their own little decisions. Put on what clothes they're going to wear, what shoes they're going to wear, how they're going to put their hair. And so they're at that starting at the beginning point of the decision-making process. And I want them to know that as I grew up in the South Side Institute of Chicago, my father used to say, you're going to have many choices in front of you, but one day you got to make the right choice or the choice. And whatever that choice is, make it count. And so I get such a joy out of making sure these young kids know you have a lot of choices in your life, but you're going to have to make the right choice. There's an old saying that, you know, the choices that you make in your life is like the life that you lead will dictate the life that you live. And so I wanted to make sure that as I talk to these young kids that if an inner city ghetto kid like me can make someone's life, why can't you? You can do more than just me. You can be all you can be, you know, like the Army used to tell us.
That's right. And so you have your own cred when you start talking to these kids. Not only do you have, you know, a history that you can pull on, but you knew all about making choices, and you probably can look each and every one of them in the eye and kind of make them at least rethink before they just jump to a conclusion. And that's a very rare quality. So I know that I know that you do like the speaking in the Rotary Club and the schools, but is that your support system, or do you have other support systems that keep you going these days?
Well, clearly, I have my website, of course, and take a look at you know, some of the things that I'm able that I have the capability of doing. But my biggest supporter that I will tell you is the First Lady, the wife. She is my rock, my solid rock. She is the one that put us both on this course, and I am just truly grateful for that. My family, of course, but the First Lady is my encouragement. As long as I know she's there, I know everything's going to be okay. So I look at her for my inspiration. I also look at her when I'm not doing so well. At the same time, I ask her, how did I do? I want to make sure that I'm doing okay as well. Because when I go out to speak, I want her to be my biggest critic, because I can tell, because she's not only she's my First Lady, but she's my best friend, and she's also my soulmate. So I'm very truly blessed that the Lord has given me the one opportunity I think we all try to find in our lives, which is our soulmate, and I have definitely found mine. So I would say that is the key cornerstone to me outside of my other opportunities, and of course the blessing of the Almighty.
That's nice to have your biggest fan and your biggest critic in the same person. So
Absolutely.
that, Terry, again, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I want to talk about the formats in your website. So stick around.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to care for a loved one? I'm Charlotte Kenyon, award-winning author of the book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, How to Parent Your Parents. That was a question I had to ask myself some 16 years ago. And you'll have to ask the same question. I had a father-in-law with dementia, a mother with Alzheimer's, and a dad with Parkinson, all at the same time.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Hey, this is Rox Burkey, and thanks for coming back. I am with Terry Braddock, the author of The Stump, which is very interesting. And it really is important that we find out a little bit about, I know you said earlier you chose to publish as an independent author, which is great. But you also did something a little bit more unique with the different formats that you put together on this book. Can you explain that to our listeners, please?
Well, yes, the First Lady and I, we looked at doing several different iterations of the book, hardcover, soft cover, large print, audio book, and as well as doing an abridged version. So we wanted to be able to capture each one of the audience out there. We wanted to be able to have different versions of the book that might be more to the audience liking. We thought that was key, because sometimes, in most cases, what you find out when you self-publish, a lot of folks that do self-publish, they don't want to invest. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. If you're going to do self-publish, you need to be prepared to invest, and I mean all the way. And financially, it's going to be a strain, especially if you're not prepared for it. Because again, when you're going to be doing this self-publish, that means everything is on you. And so you need to be able to look at your audience and say, okay, what does the audience out there want? So when we looked at the hardcover, we said, well, some people like to act soft covers. And he said, well, some people like big print books, with big letters in it as well. As their eyesight is starting to look at that. And then we also said, there's some people that just don't like to read, period. but they love to listen to audio tapes. I said, yeah, that's true too. Okay, so we did audio as well. And at the same time, we decided that we wanted to go a step further. So we took all the military out, and we just left pretty much the childhood and my young adult years growing up. So we did a bridge for children. So we said we wanted to hit that middle ground from middle school all the way up through high school. And so we did a bridge version as well. And I think that would really kind of hit every audience out. So that was some of the directions that we thought would be best invested towards our audience.
So when you go around to the different schools, do you take some of your abridged versions and share them with the students?
I absolutely do. When we go to different speaking arrangements, we make sure that we take every different type of book that we have basically put out to include our bridge version. Gives the children and their family members an opportunity to be able to purchase. I also like, if the school is willing, I'd like to donate one of my books to the schools. We have donated our books to schools as well as libraries, and has been received very, very well. And I'm very, very pleased that they like that. The book itself, I think, as you know, and you have a chance to see on the website, has won several awards. And so we are very, very proud of that, especially being that the wife and I are independent, and we are going up against some of the big name book companies out there and publishers out there, and we have done really well. And so when you look at some of the book competitions that we've been in, the IFE, IBPA, we're talking about some of the major big book competitions that we got into. And I've always said to the wife, I said, sweetheart, either they're gonna love it or they're gonna hate it, but it's not gonna be nothing in the middle. So let's just see how good we really are. And so we got in these competitions, and thus far, the book has managed to basically pull down 4 golds and 4 silvers. And so we have done quite well.
And that is awesome. It just speaks to how much heart you put into this book, because that's part of what resonates with the readers, is you put your heart and soul into it. It's not just a fabricated story. So what is your website for people that want to be able to see what else you're working on, to reach out to you?
They can go to www.thestumpmywayout.com. And I say that again.
So thestumpmywayout.com.
www.thestump. Yes, ma'am. And you can also order the book online as well. And we highly encourage you to go to my website to order the book, because it will ask you how you want the book signed. You get a personal signed copy by me. And so clearly, if you go to other areas to order, like Amazon and so forth, you just get the book. So if you want a personal signed copy by me, please go to my website, because we will sign it the way you want. And I tell you, it'll be a great feeling, not only for me to do that, but I think it'll be a great feeling for you to receive it as well.
So do you respond to people who reach out to you on your website with a contact? Do you encourage that? You like that feedback?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We constantly look for that. Every time I go out to different areas to speak, the first thing, and when people come up and say, "Can I get an autographed book?" I say, "Please, yes, I'd like to give you an autograph of my book, but I want you to do me a favor." And I said, "What's that?" I said, when you read my book, I want you to give me your honest assessment of this book. What are your actual thoughts? What do you think? I said, I really want to know. I really want your true, honest assessment. Please be honest with me, because it helps me to know how I'm doing and how the book is basically doing. And thus far, I have to say, we've been truly blessed. The book has done very, very exceptionally well, and every comment that's coming back, this is a really good book. It transitions, and it's just an easy read. And then I've had folks that says, my husband don't read, but he got your book and he just can't seem to put it down. I'm like, well, that's good. Okay, that's good. I like hearing things like that.
And that's awesome. And it's a perfect way for us to sadly end the show for this evening. Again, I have been with Command Sergeant Major Terry L. Braddock. He is retired now, but he has come out with a really remarkable memoir that doesn't go into the battlefield as much as it goes into how to grow up no matter where you start from. So Terry, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. I hope we get to do it again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it as well.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.